Good morning. Let us go on. We've been talking yesterday about this historical perspective of what is going on. We find now that the northern kingdom of Israel had been defeated, their people had been scattered, new people had been brought in. In the meantime, Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, had become king in Judah. And he was, to all extents, a good king. He tried to once again bring back order to the southern kingdom and bring them back again to a place where they could honor God and live their lives God's way. He was, in fact, a good king. But time passes. And into about the 14th year of his reign, which is about 11 years after the fall of the northern kingdom, there is now a new emperor in Assyria. And his name was Sennacherib. And he decided that just like his predecessor had invaded the northern kingdom, he probably wanted an even bigger buffer state. So he thought what he would do, he'd come in and he would take over the towns of Judah. And so he moved through Israel, came down to Judah, and attacked Judah. Many of the cities in Judah fell, but Hezekiah had been a very clever king. He had built up Jerusalem and he'd fortified it. And he'd fortified it so it was a very difficult city to actually occupy or attack. And when Sennacherib moved south to attack Jerusalem, then he's met with this fortified city which he has to take. He decides, that Sennacherib is, he decides he will lay siege to it. And the siege brought great famine into the city. Hezekiah had in fact developed a great tunnel to bring water in. He had water, but their food supplies were getting very low. So Sennacherib sends his emissaries to Hezekiah, and he says, I know that you're in great difficulties. Just open the gates, submit to me, accept yourselves as a vassal state, and I will leave you in peace. But you must submit to me. But Hezekiah does not want to do this. And so he stands firm and he says, no, I will not do it. He's challenged on many occasions, but then the situation really becomes desperate. Sennacherib in the north sends him a great letter telling him what he has to do. And Hezekiah doesn't know what to do with it. But what he does, he goes into the temple in Jerusalem and he lays the letter out on the altar. And he says, this is the letter I have received. I'm asking for God's help. Then he sends to Isaiah, who is still around, of course. And Isaiah comes to him and he says, don't worry about Sennacherib. He's gone past what God has done. He has, in fact, insulted God. Because when Sennacherib had written to Hezekiah, he said quite simply, look at all the other places I've done. Look at all the other kings I've destroyed. Look at all the other gods I've overcome. My gods are more powerful than your gods. My army is more powerful than your army. You can't, if I gave you 2,000 horses, you couldn't put any troops on them to fight me. You are completely helpless. You know nothing about it. Nothing about it at all. Isaiah says to Hezekiah, don't worry. Sennacherib has gone too far. He has insulted the God of Judah. He has insulted your God. God will deal with him. How is God going to deal with him? What would God do? Well, read the story, you'll find out. In one night, it says the angel of the Lord went right through the camp of the Assyrians, which was surrounding Jerusalem. In one night, 185,000 of Sennacherib's troops were killed in one night. He is so startled by this, and he is so frightened by this. And hearing rumors as well that back in Assyria things were not so well, he withdraws his army and he goes back to Assyria where he's come from. But shortly after this, he too is assassinated by his own sons, and the threat from Assyria is taken away. We think God's purposes have been worked out. Judah is now safe. Everything is going well. This moment, Hezekiah gets taken ill. And again he asks God for help. And again God adds to his years of health. But then something strange happens. The other empires are watching. And the empire of Babylon sends emissaries to Hezekiah. And he shows them all that he has done. He shows them all that he is doing. And Isaiah comes to him, he says, did some people come to you from Babylon? And Hezekiah says, yes. He said, what did you do? He said, I showed them all that I'm doing, because it's a long way off Babylon. And Isaiah says, yes, they'll be back. They'll be back. Not yet, but after your death, they'll be back. Because Babylon will come and discipline Judah. Amen.